Okay. Hi, guys. Welcome to the Virgin Authors. Thanks to all of you who have tuned in. We have learned that winning writing contests can put a writer on the map. So stay with us to the end of the show because we're going to share a couple of fun contests that we found online for all of you writers out there. And to start with, I'm Jana Vandelar, and I'm one of the 3 Virgin Authors.
Hi, I'm Mandy McGuire. And before we move on, I just want to congratulate Jana and Lissa, who placed 1st and 3rd place in the women's fiction category at PNWA.
Wait,
Congratulations. I'm so happy for you both.
Wow. Okay.
Hi, I'm Lissa Reese, and thank you, Mandy, for recognizing that. But let's not forget that your latest novel has placed in 3 other contests. So we didn't get to be there for you in person, but wow.
Thank you.
So I'd like to introduce tonight's guest. She's here to chat with us about critique groups. Jacquolyn McMurray writes contemporary romance and historical fiction. She teaches online writing classes, and she provides editing services for authors as well. She lives with her husband, are you ready, on a macadamia nut farm on the big island of Hawaii, where they coexist with a clouder of cats and a flock of hodgepodge chickens.
Oh,
Thanks
wow.
for joining us, Jackie.
Welcome.
Hey,
Nice to be here, lady. Thank
Jacquolyn.
you.
My little girl's name is Jacquolyn. I don't know if you caught that, but I love that name.
That's right.
I
Well,
like
thank you.
my name too. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. We're so happy to have you. And we're going to talk about critique groups tonight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
How important they are.
Yeah, how important they are, how you get into one, what the difference is between a critique group and beta readers and all the rest of that stuff. So why don't you start by telling us about your critique group? How long have you been in this group?
20 years in one. And I know.
Wow.
And,
You look 20, girl. You don't even look 20.
thank you. 20 years with one partner that started out with 4 and 2 have since moved on to do other things. And then another group for about 5 years. And we all meet regularly. So I meet with 2 different groups, actually.
Hey, how often?
So my friend of 20 years, my partner of 20 years, and I meet once a month, and we critique like only when we're ready to have somebody read and to have the other person read.
Oh, okay.
The other group is very structured. We have 4 members. We send pages up to 4,000 words. We used to do 5,000. We thought that was just a little bit too much to read, because I know Jana was asking about that earlier. We do up to 4,000 words. A lot of people only send, 1,500 or 2,500. We do that one week. The next week we critique. We send the critiques back on Thursday evening, and we meet Friday evening to discuss.
Oh.
So you do it every week? Is it a weekly thing?
No. So that would come up, what, every 3 weeks?
So we're sending pages every 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then the week between, we're doing the critique and the Zoom conversation.
gosh.
Yeah, that's so good. That's
So that's interesting. So you send a written critique ahead of time before the discussion.
Yes.
Well, that
Yes.
would cut down on the time, because I also have a group. We meet every 3 weeks. So we send our pages 1 week ahead of our meeting, and we critique everybody else's stuff, but we don't talk about it until we actually get together. And then 2 weeks later, we send new pages. But when we get together, it's hard to stick to our time limit. So that's an interesting way to do it.
Yeah, that is.
So on our time limit, because we've had 5 years to sort of work through all of this.
That helps.
It does help.
That you stuck together that long.
But we stuck
I'm
together.
still hoping Mandy and
Right.
Lissa stick with me.
Yeah, you got to stick to it.
I'm encouraged.
And So one of the things we do is when we have the conversation about somebody's work, we take turns, we keep track. So it'll be Jackie, Linda, Joanne, Lori, and then Jackie goes to the end of the line next time, because sometimes you have more energy at the beginning of the Zoom talk. So we do that.
Well, that's
And
good.
then we try really hard that nobody gets a really long period of time, even if you sent more words. It's about 20 minutes each. And we're pretty good about it. So then we don't talk about punctuation, notations about any of that stuff.
Yeah.
We
But
just,
do you send it back to them personally, like all your notes with the punctuation, all that too?
right. We use track changes in
Oh.
Word, all except one who doesn't know how to use track changes. So she
Oh,
just inserts the color, and that's fine. It's still there, right? It's inserted in a different color.
Yeah.
And so we send it the night before. So you have a chance to kind of look. And so that gives it gives the author a chance to ask the partners, what was confusing about this? Because 2 out of 3 of you said you were confused here, but in your own head, it's always very clear, of course.
Yeah.
And then so I can formulate my questions for the group ahead of time. And I think that saves time.
I love that. Yeah.
Well, we have a question. Our lovely friend Geeta is watching us live.
Oh, hi, Geeta.
Hi.
We love you.
We love you. She's really great.
She's such an amazing writer and friend. We're so thankful she's on. But she wanted to ask you, in your critique group, do you all write in the same genre?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Excellent question, because and the answer is no.
Yeah.
I've read so much about that, because we write we all started in romance. So let's start with that. 5 years ago, we were all just writing romance. Well, then, there's the paranormal suspense, and then there's the zombie writer, and then there's the just
Children's,
contemporary.
Yeah.
And I do some historical. And so those genres, although romance has a similar format, of course, but those genres can be, different expectations. What I wanted to say about the advantage of not all being in the same genre, though, is you get that new set of eyes, and who maybe don't know the genre. And I think that some good questions come up. I think when people get confused, particularly, or they're saying, I wish there was more emotion in this scene, that's all just universal writing stuff.
Yeah.
So for us, it works. I do have another gal that I trade some pages with for historical. So when I'm working on a historical right now. So I'll probably run those pages by her just to get her feedback. Because, well, there is one in
another whole element. I mean, that's the research, and that's another whole element on top of
it's a whole other thing. Yeah.
I don't think sci-fi, or young, like you're doing, Lissa, you do some young.
Yeah, so I just
young sci-fi?
I'm working on a young adult science fiction story, and when I started with this group a couple years ago, I was writing strictly women's fiction. So I ran some of these pages by them, and so we had one gal was sending us her memoir pages, and another gal was writing young adult paranormal, I guess. And I was doing the women's fiction, and the fourth one was doing like real hardcore science fiction stuff. So I think you're right, Jackie. It's nice to get eyes on from someone who doesn't necessarily read that genre, because we all want to have readers who, maybe are reading the genre for the first time.
And I never would have read zombie except for the friend.
Except for the groups, right?
Except for the group and so there's that advantage of like being introduced ourselves to new genres, and her main character is so strong, and so you look at those other kinds of elements again that are universal elements. So it works for us. I think when you're looking for a group, I think there's too much emphasis on finding somebody in your genre. I feel like that's like disabling for some.
Well, and then who's to say we only get to write one genre? Are we supposed to have a different?
Well, there's
critique
that, yeah.
of writing?
Genre queen here. Ask me what genre. The only one I don't write is sci-fi, I feel like.
Jackie, so can you talk a little bit? You've mentioned it a little bit and touched on it, but if you're entering a critique group that's new, or you're meeting with some new people, what types of things are they commenting about? If you're not talking about commas and periods and sentence structure, really, what is that purpose of the critique group, and what's good feedback that we would kind of recognize?
So when we actually still do it, but especially when we first started, we were very clear with one another when we sent the pages what we wanted feedback on. And I've done this for years with beta readers. So you say, my pronoun usage is horrible this time. Can you just look at that for me? Or, this is an important scene. Is there enough emotion? Or did I go over the top? Or confusion is a big one that we really focus on all the way around. So if somebody's not following along, we certainly want them to mention it.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you feel lost, you need to tell me, because that's part of your job too, right? So being truthful in a kind way. And so, and that's really, and that is the key. So there's this commitment to one another to help. And sometimes you say some things that could be construed as kind of picking on people or whatever, but because we've built this trust, and I think trust is
That's huge. I mean, it sounds like you guys have built up a good relationship, because there's actually a local group up here, which I'm going to bug to listen to this. They're awesome, but they're very intellectual. And so that's why I honestly haven't participated much with my stuff. I occasionally have picked up a few and read theirs, and they're great. But the comments, when I have joined in quietly, because it's always on Zoom up until actually this last couple of months. I was like, wow, they're really smart. And I don't really know them that well, and it's like I don't want to go in there, with my Marie Antoinette, outfit that's on our Facebook Live, people. But yeah, it's tough to building up that trust, and for me to share something with them. Now I can say I won a contest.
That's right. You can't say that. And I think
People, I don't know, I paid them somehow.
You have to be incredibly confident to not go through those days where you're like, this is, all I'm writing is junk. I should quit, that imposter syndrome thing. That's the other thing about having that stable critique group, though, is that, part of your job too is to be encouraging, or to say, you can't do your pages this week. That's fine. But here's the caveat to that.
Yeah.
Even if you don't send pages, you critique for everybody else.
Yeah.
You only get a pass if there's a big fan. We have somebody sitting out right now from both sending pages and critiquing, because she has a situation at home. And it was a conversation. It was a conversation. And so everything is decided together. But I look forward to, even when I don't send pages, and I might go 2 months in a row where I just can't honestly get it together.
Yeah.
But I still critique, and I still meet with them, and they'll go, can you do 1,000 words next time? I'm like, I don't know, I'll try. I just have to start a new story, and you know how hard that is for me. So then they get 4 new beginnings to the same story for the next 2 months, and they're all cool about it, like it's fine.
Nice.
But that's actually a really great exercise to do when you're starting a book, isn't it? To do 4 different beginnings.
Revise, think it through, like, what's it going to be? Yeah.
Start in a different place.
Find the best place to start.
Yeah. And then at some point you just have to, of course, move forward, because my one friend says, you're probably going to change this anyway, Jackie. So just move a little bit further now, a little bit, take a step forward now. So, but
When you write the end, you go back.
then you can go, yeah, well, if you don't, you're, if it's my stuff, you're in trouble if you don't go back 4 times.
Mine's like 20 times.
Yeah.
Marta Kaufman told us one time in one of our meetings, excuse me for interrupting, but just spit it out. Or she said, I think said vomit, but vomit it, get it out there, and then we can clean it up, and so I think it really helps to have the support of the friends encouraging you, which I think is part of this critique group, which I think we have with some of our groups, our Shut Up and Write, which Mandy pointed out that we have a different, like, honestly, before we started the Zoom today, I was like, oh, I'm part of a critique group, but Mandy pointed out, Jana, Lissa really is only one of our group that is. I'm trying to join the local one up here, which I do. I get the notes, but I haven't actually submitted any of my work. And so there is a different level of just support, which we have a Shut Up and Write group, which, is very supportive, and we just get on, we don't. And really, if somebody wants to read something in our group, we do, we'll say, hey, somebody available, and that's very helpful. And that's kind of more my genre, I'm kind of not genre, but I'm like, yeah, I have tons of time this week. Or
and that's great, because they're an accountability group. They're bigger. We could never form into a formal critique group because there's too many of us. But I think all of us have taken advantage of that. I'm trying to write a synopsis. Does anybody have time to read this? I just did a short story. Does anybody want to look at it?
Right.
And
or
that,
entering a contest, or
and that's a genuine, legitimate critique. It's just not
regular, accountable critique.
And the thing that you do, Jacquolyn, that I like is, I wrote as a columnist, we were talking about this earlier when we were off Zoom, but I had a deadline, and that does help with this a little bit, the way you guys have it structured, because you have it more, this is a deadline and you have to turn it in pretty much, unless, you bail. Is that right? Did I understand that right? How you're doing that? Yeah, because I'm like, well, maybe, I know you said that you can, if there's some problem, you don't have to send something in, but it does help to kind of promote you saying, hey, I've got to get this into my group. They're not out to hurt me. That helps.
You can tell your husband that. I have pages due today. Can't do I have pages due. I mean, he knows what that means. I have pages due. And then the next week I have critiques due. So it's,
so can we hire a housekeeper?
Yeah. A housekeeper.
I know. Oh, I think, boy, I tell you, that'd be nice, huh?
No, but I like that because it does. I mean, I'm great at deadlines. Give me a deadline, I'm in, but without a deadline, it's like the dog, I have to clean up the dog poop today. It's like, I can put anything ahead of it.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't even like that, but I'm like, yeah, that's a higher priority today, so I love that you have that, and it's a very organized. How did you structure it? Did you guys, you were just all friends, you're good friends, you were in the writing biz? How did you
find each other?
Yeah.
We, 2 of us had been with a former publisher, so that's how we met. And then we went to the Emerald City conference together, and that's where we met the third partner at
networking conference with people. Make a note.
Work, right? And then the 4th person is an old friend of mine from Fairbanks, who's also a writer, and so I knew she'd be a good fit. So that's the consideration too, is you really have to look for the fit. And I wanted to, because we talked about earlier, is how do you get through all of those pages for reading? We think 4 people is maximum. So if everybody does 4,000 words, which is rare in our group that all 4 of us would have that much, that's a fair amount of reading. And it isn't like, it isn't just reading, right? You're thoughtfully commenting and doing, some sort of comments back, and sometimes making suggestions on changes to stronger words. We get into sentence structure, we do offer those things, and it's whoever's taking, because we all still take classes, whoever's taking, a class at the time you'll see. So I'll tell the group, oh yeah, I'm in a deep point of view class right now. So that's my comments are going to be all about that. Just
Passive. You're being passive.
that's really what you expect. And stop.
Mandy,
Good idea. I get it.
can you address something else for the listeners too? So we've talked about the formal critique group and the more of an accountability and support group. And then how do you find and what do you use your beta readers for?
My beta readers are really, the way I use beta readers are, they have much less responsibility than my critique partners. I would say that. So I'm asking them to sit and read for pleasure. So, and I give it to them all one time. So a beta reader would read the whole story.
Okay.
And again, I provide a list of questions, you know, when did you feel emotion and what was it? Because that's really important to me. Where did you get lost?
Yeah.
That's important to me. And I'm horrible with timelines. I struggle with timelines. And so I ask them to just say if something seemed out of place. And that's about it. Like, because I've already had these pages through my critique group. So I know if I've made some big kind of error, right? Yeah.
So you said, I interrupted you and I didn't mean to, Jacqueline. You said your emotions. I know you said timeline, but it was something right in between. There's another one that you said to watch for when you have beta.
If they're lost. If they get lost.
Yeah.
So you know how you know, you try not to do on the nose, but then you know sometimes your choreography isn't there because you're not trying to describe every little movement, but you're like, how did that person get in the water? Because the pavilion and all of a sudden they're swimming from a shark. I don't know.
Yeah, I get it. Oh, it's like they're
Fell off the boat like Jenna's dog.
Yeah,
no, I just made up a timeline. I made up my own. You can pick up templates, and I did. I'm like, all of a sudden it was Thanksgiving. I'm like, what? When I was reading it, because I'm trying to send this in, and I thought, how did I get to Thanksgiving? This is like 2 months ago.
I do the same thing, and because in romance, it's, you know, you can have this really tight timeline. So if you say Tuesday, and it's the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, you better know you're thawing the turkey or whatever it is, right? So,
right. You better be shopping.
Same thing, Jen. I use a calendar to note those things because otherwise it's a mess for me.
Yeah, they have blank templates because I'm so Virgo-y, but they have, you know, without any, some people look that up because they do have that. I was going to say the friendship that you have is incredible with these people. So you're so fortunate with that because it really, and the networking people, she met one of them at a Emerald City, she said, which is a conference in case you don't know. And conferences are crucial. We all three plus other of our support groups or writing groups or whatever went to this conference in PNWA, and you can network. It's such a great network. Coming on with us, asking us, you know, I don't know if you're okay with this, Jacqueline, but you can email, text other writers, you know, networking. Mandy's the hero. I don't know where you are on my screen, but Mandy's the hero at networking. And we're all learning that, huh, Melissa? You and I are getting to be pretty good. Yeah.
We are following in Mandy's footsteps. She is teaching us all to be braver.
So basically,
just ask those people, just email them, just talk to them in the elevator. Like they're just people like us.
Yeah, it's really helpful to make friends and just even a friend, you know, and then you kind of start feeling it out. Because I've been in a few critique groups, and there's one that was, oh my God, honest to God, he was a rocket scientist, I think, and you know, compared, you know, our writing was like way off grid with each other, but we still helped each other. I just couldn't stick with him because, and this is another thing, he had us send it in via some document, and it wasn't our Google Docs that Mandy's been teaching us, but you know, there's like, how do you send it in through just an email? Is that how you guys send it?
Do an attachment. You know, I think everybody, well, one works in Scrivener, the rest of us work in Word. and we just do an attachment.
Okay, see, that helps so much because it got so complicated. I'm like, you guys, can we just, and then you send it back individually, right? Is how you do
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So we send the critiques to everybody in the group. So everybody
Yeah.
can see what we said about everybody's.
Oh,
And then it's a richer conversation, when you do have the conversation. So I can say, Joanne and I sometimes, because I never read the other people's critiques before I do my critique, because I
Okay.
feel like
That's important, I think.
It's
Yeah.
cheating. Yeah, I don't want to be influenced. And then Joanne and I will have almost exactly the same comments, like often. It's almost spooky.
Weird. Yeah.
It's like one
funny.
brain. It's very
Yeah.
weird.
I wasn't like that with the nuclear
So
physics.
watch out for that. That's what happens when you're with people for a long time. You like share a brain, and it's kind of cool, but it's kind of
No.
weird too.
No, so
Yeah.
that's good. You send it all in together. I mean, to the same people with the same attachment, I mean, with your corrections, and then, but you don't read those until you're done with your own critiques first, right? And then you send it to the group as well. And then when you do the discussion, you do like a similar, a summary type of thing when you guys are all talking, right?
So when we do the conversation, we pull up on screen and we have one person lead, and they'll like, okay, on page 1, and we insist that we number the pages just because it helps for the conversation.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
On page 1, these are the things that I noticed. And then if somebody noticed the same thing, they might add to that, or when it's their turn to speak, they won't mention it again. So
Okay.
that saves time too.
Yeah.
So usually typically the person with the least comments for that author's pages will be the lead. And so they get to say something, right?
Yeah.
Everything's a duplicate. They don't get to talk at all. So we all take our turn for every page, but
Okay.
we have somebody that's kind of running this show, that's
Oh, that's nice.
through. Mhm.
Well, I think you're really lucky. We've all of our writer friends kind of share information and talk about stuff like this all the time. And the critique groups that I've heard that people are really happy with, like you're saying, one woman you've been with for over 20 years. Another friend of ours who's been really supportive of our group, Jerry Russell, her critique group has also been meeting, I think 20 plus years, and they're a really solid group.
Wow.
And I just, that's kind of the dream, right? That you have people that blend that well and are providing rich feedback. I mean, that's what we're hoping for.
And I think the advantage, one of the things that we've learned through using Zoom so much, or whatever sort of online connections that you make, Zoom seems to be popular, is we've learned that you don't have to be in the same city to be in a group. I think a lot of people right? You can be in a group with people. We have one in Alaska and 2 in Washington State, and me in Hawaii, and we make it work for all this time. So I know people wonder, we have people all the time say, I want to be in your group. And we say, well, we keep the numbers down for a very good reason, because we want to be able to pay attention.
But form your own. It's such a great,
it's a great number. When people go to conferences and connect with people, I would recommend that they just try trading some pages and do that a couple of times to see if they're a good fit. And then maybe one of them invites a friend and the other one invites a friend that's a good fit. There are ways, to form groups, but I think people are, it's hard to hear feedback from people that you don't know well.
That's true.
It's tough. It can be.
That's why I'm getting to know
Jackie,
the locals.
you kind of debunked the myth that everybody has to be in the same genre, but what we found is worked and not worked in as we were forming our group is we all kind of have to be at the same stage or level or competency of craft, because it's really hard if you have somebody who is,
I get that.
Right.
I
What do you think
I
about
would
that?
say I think that is more important. I mean, one of our people is has a lot more books than the rest of us, and she's really good at marketing. But I think on the other hand, we all bring our own expertise, and so if that expertise is somebody who always notices when your character's off, like this is not this, your character's off. So again, no matter what the genre or what the level of her own writing, she spots those things.
Right.
And so, I mean, we're all published in our group.
I still like you, even though you're like a hero.
Well, self-published. I mean, I have one with Barber Publishing, but the rest of mine are self-published.
Awesome, though. I mean, that's harder, right?
We do have another question. Do we have time for another question?
I'm good. Are you okay
Yeah,
with that, Jacqueline? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the question is, how do you manage when the group members perhaps know each other too well? How do you still give honest feedback? Or
Yeah.
even know if we're working through a friendship lens after 20 years?
Oh,
Mhm.
question. Is that Gita again? Gita's so good. Okay, go ahead.
It's a really good question. I think that trust makes such a difference in saying, this is my editor hat. This is my critique hat now.
Yeah.
And so, and one of our ladies in our group always says, I'm telling you like a reader now. She always kind of prefaces that. Like as a reader, this is what bothered me. And it's always the author's choice, whether you make changes. And nobody's offended if I don't make a change that they recommended. Now, if 2 out of 3 make that same recommendation, I'm probably going to change it. But so I think, for me, that my 20-year partner is, I think our friendship has made it easier in a lot of ways. And again, it's because of the trust and the commitment to writing for both of us. I want her to do well. She wants me to do well. And you don't do that with the first crappy draft. You need help. Almost everybody needs help. Your first draft is not that great usually.
Yeah, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I know we're kind of short, but the when I do help critique people, I get so excited when they win a contest or when they're, because it's like, I'm part of that. It's such a gift because you were part of that. You were part of that creation, even though they did it all. But you made a point about the period being in the wrong place. And I'll take the credit. No, but it's such a great gift, to be able to share that creation with your friends and stuff. What do you think?
And I think reading for others and critiquing, it helps us to be better writers too, right? Because you notice things in other people's writing that over my head in my own. I just think there's so many advantages, and I think the friendship is. Like all of these ladies in my group are all really, really good friends at this point. Yeah.
Did I just hear a rooster?
Yes, I think yes. One of many.
One of many.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. That's
Right.
It's
Right,
good.
so
Jackie,
we're almost out of time.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, we are.
We Jenna, we have some announcements. Yes.
Yeah, we do. I was so into the rooster, but you guys. So we talked about the contest, and I just tried to post it, but I will post it as soon as I'm done talking here. But about the contest, and the first is a Writer's Digest contest. Now we can't endorse them because I don't think any of us have tried them yet. But again, literally by Lissa, me, and Mandy joining these contests, you win sometimes, you lose sometimes they give you critiques. They're the best thing. So join these contests. And so we're trying to give you some, and so I'll post it in the thing. And that's another good thing, even about a critique group or a support group. that we were trying to tie in, that you can kind of share this with your friends. You're like, hey, there's a contest open, and we're your friend, you guys, as Virgin Authors. So on our website, we have a list of contests, but here's two new ones. One was Writer's Digest, and it can pay off for a short story if you write short stories. The top prize is $3,000. I don't think I've earned that in my entire writing career. The deadline's November 15th. And because it's almost Halloween, there's a second contest. Okay. Oh, and I drank it all, but this is a purple drink. It costs only $4.99 if you're a Booksy member, which I think you can join, but the top winner will get $250, which is still more than I probably made. The deadline is after Halloween, which is weird because it's a Halloween contest. It's on 11/11. I will post this on the bottom while we all talk here, but I'm really excited about these, and really good luck, everybody. Okay.
Yes.
I'll
And
post.
you've won more than 250 because at PNWA you just won 6
I
bucks.
did. I interrupted the whole contest because I was so excited. It was some money. You actually won some money, right? Listen.
Awesome.
I was shocked.
Awesome.
I'm like, there's money, there's a check in here. It was
Oh my
I
gosh.
was-
Well, Jackie, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. I appreciate you so much. Meeting
Yeah,
you at
yeah.
Emerald City was just such a blessing, and you've been a wonderful mentor to me, and I appreciate your support so much. You can find more about Virgin Authors here on Facebook Live. We are here the third Thursday of every month. We've added information in the chat below about our contests, and you can find a lot more on our website. We want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I saw lots of new faces, and our
Bye,
absolutely
Mary. Hi, Dan. Go ahead.
wonderful friend, Geeta. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Gita.
Okay.
And
Thank you
thank
all.
you so
Jacqueline,
much,
thank you.
ladies.
Thanks, Jackie, for a fun chat.
It was a fun chat. Thanks.
We
Thank
have
you
her
all.
information in the chat too. If I didn't get it in right, I'll put it in for sure. But
Okay.
All right. Good night.
Night.
oh,